Stop with the inclusivity. Only fan gatekeeping can save our favorite nerd passions, from D&D to Star Wars. All I have to say is, too little, too late. I was one of those people who was saying this shit over a fucking decade ago. We need to kick these toxic fucking invaders out. Enough with this, oh, this is for everyone bullshit. These people literally hate us and our hobbies and everything we stand for. And you want to let them in? And the responses I always got were like, oh, you're just as bad as them. Or like, oh well, if we let them in, they're gonna experience how wonderful our hobby is, and we can bring them over to our side. Or you're being an extremist. Sometimes I got kicked out for what I said, and then funny enough, within a few months, that whole community collapsed because, exactly as I said, the bad apples took over and ruined everything. So for over a fucking decade, I've been saying this exact fucking thing. And quote unquote, my own side was treating me like shit for it. And now that it's too fucking late, now that the infection is terminal, now they finally come around. Now they're like, oh, maybe we should have kept. No fucking shit. What the hell do you think I've been? Yeah. You guys get everything you fucking deserve right now. I'm sorry. I have zero patience for any of these communities anymore. I fully agree with those people that say gamers get the industry they deserve, because you fuckers are the ones that let this happen. But that aside, Sophia Norwitz did write a pretty good article. It's just 10 fucking years too late. So let's go into it. The inclusivity experiment has failed, like I said 10 fucking years ago. And it's time to admit that gatekeeping served a purpose. Let's bring it back. Too little, too late. If we did this 10 years ago, we could have saved the industry. I think Gamergate was the last chance we had to actually save the industry. And it was revealed to us real quick that most of the people on so-called our side are fucking cucks. And they are not willing to do what needs to be done to save this industry. So let them sink with it. We're already creating our own. If you missed the online discourse surrounding fantasy racism this week, in which case you are in the most enviable of positions, the short version is that orcs are now racist caricatures and Dungeons & Dragons should be altered. And Dungeons & Dragons has been getting altered for a long time, but yeah. Yes, society's seemingly most miserable are at it again, and as has become the norm, they're looking to ruin everyone's fun by barging in and uprooting a game that is already decades old. I was saying we gotta fucking gatekeep them out years ago, and I was the extremist. I was just as bad as them. Now all of my haters from back then are saying, yeah, we should keep these people out. Yeah. Too late. A good half of them are already behind you, you know. They're on the inside now. That's something I was pointing out when it comes to censorship, right? Remember when it was like Jack Thompson and gang that was censoring video games, or trying to? The industry as a whole stood united against him. The developers and publishers, even the fucking media, the customers, all of us in unison stood against the censors. And then these worthless fucking cucks decided it was a good idea to let the censors in. Like, oh, if we exclude them, we'll be just as bad as them. And now we're fighting the enemies on the inside. Now the publishers and the developers have been completely co-opted. The media is a completely lost cause. So us fans, us customers, are fighting alone against the outside censors and then against the internal censors in our own media and industry, because these worthless cucks refuse to keep them out. At first glance, it may appear as if a bunch of internet woke scolds with zero influence are whining, so why bother paying them notice? But if recent history is any indication, corporations are listening to the tantrum-throwing toddlers, and as a massive nerd myself, I'm sick of seeing my culture getting decimated. Now, I don't know what Sophia Norwitz was doing 10 years ago, so I can't say anything about her. But I'm just saying, I was saying this shit over a decade ago, and I was the one that was called the extremist and just as bad as them. If only people listened back then. I'm seriously considering when I die, I want to have Cassandra on my tombstone. Throughout the past few years, the media built and consumed by nerds has been tarnished and morphed beyond recognition, all to suit a very vocal minority who have zero respect for what came before. Magic the Wokening allowed tournament rules to be altered so a non-binary human could write political messages on their cards that targeted the artist of said cards. This, of course, followed massive online outrage after the company originally remained steadfast and said no. Star Trek, a series known for its deeper philosophical messaging, is now a lazy modern-day agitprop that's core messaging breaks down into the Federation are actually the bad guys because Orange Man bad and fascism or something like whatever. Please clap for how deep we are. I mean, this is a good article. It's just too little too late, that's all. Meanwhile, our other beloved franchises such as Soy Wars are being handed off to directors who clearly despise its core fans. Now, that's another thing I brought up because the reason Star Wars sold for like $4.5 billion is because of this built-in existing fan base. Disney could have just made any generic sci-fi. They didn't have to make Star Wars. Why did they go with Star Wars? Because it had that built-in fan base. So they paid $4.5 billion for that built-in global fan base, only to say, oh yeah, fuck you guys, we don't need you anymore. This isn't for you. We're making this for a new generation of fans. Why didn't you just make your own shit from scratch if that's what you were going to do? You would have been way more effective. Because at least then you wouldn't constantly be getting compared to what came before. Start over. And this is only scratching the surface as video games, tabletop card and board games, television series, comics, and film are being constricted to conform to the modern-day crowd that'll turn on it in a dime. And I'm going to laugh when it does. All because a white female to black female ratio is off by 0.02%. And if you see that black woman under a specific type of lighting, then they're going to shriek about whitewashing too. Yeah, these are the galaxy brains we're dealing with. All the while, the people who helped such properties get to where they are and who stuck with them through all the many ups and downs, they're left at the wayside and called bigots because they disagree that D&D is a colonialist fantasy. Oh, I can't wait until this bites Sony in the ass. They stabbed all the customers and companies who stood with them when the PS3 was flopping in the back. And now when the PS5 is a repeat of that, we're not going to be there to bail their asses out again. I wish I was being hyperbolic, but consider Vampire the Masquerade. This is a tabletop game where you play as creatures of the night that battle their own moral conundrums. You play as a hooker? Oh my god, I need to actually get that now. I thought you played as vampires, but now that I know you play as a hooker, that could be fun. Dark eroticism is a main theme. You do play as a hooker. And players can give in to the dark side and partake in some truly foul activities. As an RPG, it allows players to roleplay as something completely different from our day-to-day lives. That is its purpose. Yet, as is to be expected, the fragile humans made of glass shattered at its existence, and when a new 5th edition was announced a handful of years ago, the outrage machine was flipped on. And changes were forced by the woke media going out of its way to create intentionally bad PR. It went so far that the studio behind it was gutted and production handed off to another team, all because they chose to address controversial modern-day issues. Spelled out further, a game where you can drain the blood of babies and gruesomely kill anything was attacked for controversial passages in its rulebook. It now carries with it trigger warnings. This is where the inclusivity experiment must end. No. It should have ended over a decade ago. Instead of brushing me off and calling me a crazy conspiracy theorist, there's no FJW conspiracy to co-opt. Oh, remember this one? Nobody's gonna take your anime titties away. Nobody's gonna take your fan service games away. We just want to make things more inclusive. I was calling that shit a fucking lie back when they were telling that to our faces. And once again, I was right all along. Have yet to hear a single fucking apology from the cucks who were telling me that too. Not a single one. Everything cannot be made for everyone, no matter how much some people try. Yeah, I've made that point too, actually. I've said on multiple occasions that there are gonna be groups of people who are polar opposites of each other. You can either appease one or the other or neither of them, but you can't appease both. You have to choose who you're gonna appease. And the game industry has chosen poorly, and they will pay for what they have done. Popular media with decades of history should not be trashed just so individuals who didn't even like it in the first place can feel at home. I know. See, the first thing they do when they take over is they kick us out. So when we are in charge, they cry inclusivity and get them to get us to let them in, and then they kick us out. They don't extend the same favor to us, of course. They're not inclusive towards us. They kick us out, and then they say, oh, if you don't like it, make your own. This isn't for you. Why does everything have to be for you? We need to treat them the same way. In industries that aren't completely converged yet, kick them the fuck out and tell them to make their own. When we make our own and then they show up and try to infect us and ask for inclusivity, you just tell them no. No, this isn't for you. You have that other industry you just co-opted. Go back there if you don't like what we're doing here. This is for us. This is made by gamers for gamers, by comic fans for comic fans. It's not for you. We are not going to welcome in people who want to destroy what we've made. If you don't like it, go the fuck away. Go make your own like we did. We made our own despite you trying to stop us. Why the fuck can't you make your own despite us not doing anything to stop you? Go away. Yes, you're not welcome here. Yes, we want nothing to do with you. Now go the fuck away. Leave. I never want to see you again. That's how we need to respond. And since most companies don't have the balls to stand up to internet outrage, it's up to us to actually cause a bigger outrage then to force them to bend the knee. These companies, they can't complain when we start doing this now, by the way. They've been giving in to these outrage mobs for so long. They've basically shown us that, well, forming an outrage mob is how we get them to do what we want. So since being reasonable just gets us constantly kicked out of our own communities, I guess we're going to have to start an outrage mob of our own now. And we're just going to have to shout down the other outrage mob because that's clearly the only thing these companies listen to. It's up to the long-term fans to shut down those who want to forcefully enact change. Make your own and gatekeep them out. So for as much backlash as the woke crowd is already receiving, they need to get even more of it. These people don't deserve to feel welcome in our hobbies. There is no place for them here. I agree. Again, Sophia Norwitz, this is a great article. I don't know what she was doing like 10 plus years ago. This is a good article. It's just too little too late. Because these SJWs have already infected everything, all of the existing industries. What's going to happen if we start trying to gatekeep now is they're just going to lay low and pretend they're one of us. And the second they're in a position of power, they're just going to ruin everything. So you need to make your own from scratch like we're doing with Blade Devil and specifically keep them the fuck out. Let them know in no uncertain terms, this isn't for you. You're not welcome here. On the same hand, I don't belong in theirs. If they create a new property built around stopping orc racism and snagging the land back from colonizers using the power of rainbows and hugs, who am I to barge in and demand they include more death and murder? Maybe that's what we need to start doing. I mean, turnabout is fair play, right? That would be a game that caters to them, and they deserve to have that just as we deserve to have our D&D with orcs just as they have always been. Gatekeeping, it's for the best. I'm glad people are finally catching up to where I was over a decade ago. It's a great feeling, isn't it? I wish they would have came to this conclusion before it was too late to save the industry, but you know, there's a silver lining in everything. If it wasn't for these SJWs destroying everything and the fucking cucks that let them in and refuse to let us gatekeep them, the industry would not have been as ripe as it is for us to replace them. We're starting with comics, but that's not the only industry we're going to replace. We're coming for gaming and animation next. We're going to replace all of you motherfuckers, and then we're going to specifically keep you out. We know who these people are that push this agenda. They've been doing it on social media under their real names for years because they assume that they're on the right side of history and that it's never going to come back to bite them in the ass. As they've been canceling other people, they never once thought that they one day may find themselves on the receiving end and end up canceled themselves. We're going to show them how wrong they were. Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.